What's up, Ramley? You are now in the kitchen with Chef Nixon for all your fixes for the latest and greatest of VCU men's basketball. So, VCU hosted Radford yesterday. How'd it go? Let's get into it. All right, starting off with Radford. Radford comes in this game with a record 2-1. Uh, they beat the living daylights out of Eastern Mennonite, whatever, some D2 team. Uh, and they had a really close game with Marshall, won at the buzzer in overtime. Really good game. And they also had their one loss to the hands of UNC, University of North Carolina, which they played very, very well. The score would indicate that they got beat by 16. However, they just didn't have the size to match up with the Richmond native Badcock. But however, they played UNC pretty tough. So they're coming into this game full of confidence, ready to go. They remember how the game went last year. Notice how VCU was looking on film. Notice that they don't have the same players as they did last year. So they're taking them a little bit lightly, I would assume, or they're just overly confident coming into this game. So Radford, them themselves only have 5 people returning from last year. However, their situation is a little bit different than ours. They have 5 guys returning, 3 of which were starters. So it's really their same core, same coach. So the culture is still there, and they have people to teach that culture to the newcomers to the team. And Radford really has a 3-headed monster, right? They have Kenyon Giles, 5'11", fast scoring guard who never seen a shot he didn't like, averaging 17.7 points per game. They also have DeQuan Smith, averaging 12.7 points per game. He's a professional scorer. He can shoot it. He has a big body. He can bounce and get into the lane with his body. And then they have Byron Antoine, who is a former McDonald's All-American, and he's averaging 10 points per game. And all 3 of these guys can get buckets in multiple ways. So the key for VCU is really slowing them down. Now, Radford is one of these teams that they really don't have a lot of set plays. They have a lot of motion. And their motion is really just to get their 3 guys shots. And they can make tough shots. They take and make tough shots. Will that be sustainable? We would find out later. So VCU enters this game with a record of 1-1. A disappointing loss to McNeese State, but a bounce-back win against Sanford. Even though they beat Sanford, I felt like it was still kind of unfulfilling because there was a lot of things that I believe Sanford could have done to pull the game out. However, VCU did what they needed to do to win. So it was one of those games where we're glad we got the win, but we still have a lot to improve on. And I think that Radford is the best out of the 3 teams. They're the most together. I mean, Sanford was a really good coach team, but I believe that Radford has a little bit more experience as far as dogs getting really good players getting returned. And as far as like capability and talent level, I don't think it's even a question. So this is going to be the toughest challenge of the Coach Odom era. And with VCU not really having an identity yet, still trying to figure things out, people trying to identify their roles within the system, this is definitely going to be a challenge. And if everybody plays a role and contributes, this game would be a really good game. Or so I thought. So let's get into it. VCU, per usual, started off the game slow. Lack of focus on the defensive end, sloppy offense. Zeb Jackson came out, turns over twice. And I'll stop right there. Zeb Jackson has, I don't know if you noticed, but each 3 of the games, he has started the game off with 2 turnovers. Coach pulls him out for like 20 seconds. He comes back, and he plays fantastic. I think he has to get used to being a starter. When you start out on the bench, you kind of get to watch the game and get a flow for the game and then come in and produce, right? Zeb Jackson, starting now, new role, bigger role. He has to get used to getting those starting minutes and learning how to be instantly impactful. So play. Radford gets off to a quick start. Kenyon Giles, their number one scorer, has a quick 7 points. Two of which attempts were basically wide open, right? So we weren't paying attention to detail, and we didn't pay attention to the scouting report early. They got off to a 10-2 start. Coach Odom calls a timeout. In comes Jay Nelson. Now, the one thing I really appreciate about Jay Nelson is it looks as if he takes defense personally, and I love that. I absolutely love that because that's how I was. I took it personally. I don't want you to score on me. I don't want you to get anything off of me. I don't care who you are. If you scored this much, show me. You know what I mean? And instantly, his impact, his energy off the bench led to VCU fighting back. Right? Even to the point where VCU took a 19-17 lead, basically midway through half. Radford calls a timeout. And with their experience, of course, they respond. They go on a run, storming back to an 8-point lead. And, VCU's trying to figure it out. Giles is going crazy at this point in time. He had 16 points in the first half. Absolutely hitting any type of shot. And the little dude was confident. He's a 6-foot giant. He's a little bit shorter than 6 foot. But his confidence goes through the roof. Every time he hit a shot, he went back down court like. Back in the day, probably even before my time, he would have got sent to the rim and somebody would have knocked him out of the air. That's just the confidence he was playing was ridiculous. And that would, as a defender, I would have been upset, extremely upset. And I think VCU took that personally as well. And even though Radford was able to respond and take that 8-point lead, it wasn't necessarily that VCU was just playing a bad brand of basketball, right? If you go back and watch, you see that, and even this happened even in the Sanford game. VCU has really improved on this. And it's one of these weird things. It's just securing the basketball. We have so much height and athleticism across the court that we'll get the rebound and we're nonchalant when we get it. However, we're in the midst of all these players, and it must have happened like two to 5 times that we'll get the rebound, and then Radford players are just swarming behind us, swiping at the ball, knocking it loose. So that would happen. And then poor execution on the offensive end, and Radford just took advantage of it and built the lead to an 8-point lead. However, it was short-lived due to the fact that Jay Nell found a hot hand and knocked down 4 threes in that half. You know what I mean? Zev Jackson had a great play towards the end. His famous pump fake, one dribble step back for 3. He knocked that down to tie the game in the half at 33-33. And when you're watching this game, this is exactly what I thought it would be. Once VCU got adjusted to the game, adjusted to the speed, adjusted to Radford's physicality and their style of play, the defense settled in a little bit. It was going to be a good game. And I knew that. If VCU didn't come and play defense, this was going to be a blowout. But they did. They did. And it showed a lot of fight, and it shows the growth. Coach Odom, after the McNeese State loss and even the Sanford win, has been preaching to the guys, we have to get better at defense and shoot around. He had like a little 5 to 10 minutes speech about playing defense and guarding your yard and buying in and helping your teammates and being where you need to be. And the good thing about this team is we have no head cases. We have no head cases. We have completely good guys. Like, all of the players on the team are really good kids. You know what I mean? And they're receptive. And that's so beneficial, especially when you have a new team. Everybody has to really buy in. And I believe that they believe in Coach Odom, and they're starting to buy in, which is a really good thing because it's happening early. If you look back to when I was with Shaka Smart, his first year, we did not buy in. We should have, but we didn't. It was a lot of things that happened that kind of threw us off. We had a lot of different things going on in the locker room, and we just weren't doing the right things off the court. We were really the Broad Street Bullies. But anyway, back to this team. So in the half, 33-33. Now, I broadcasted yesterday. Shout out to Sean Robertson. We did a really good job. If you didn't watch it or you were at the game, you had the time to go back and watch it, please rewatch it. Let us know what you think. I'm always trying to get better at it, so give me some feedback. Uh, so one of the keys to the game was VCU getting off to a good start, and not just at the beginning of the game, but the second half. If you watch, the Sanford game and the McNeese game, the 11-minute mark we start playing well, but sometimes we put ourselves in such a big hole it's hard to climb out of. So I was really harping on the fact that they needed to get off to a really good start in the second half. And when I say the VCU Rams answered the bell, they were amazing. This is the best half of basketball under Coach Odom I've seen. And if they can play how they played in that second half, moving forward, watch out A10. Seriously, watch out A10. They have the thing about VCU is they don't have to have the quickest feet because they have so much length, right? And it's going to be trouble for some teams to get off good shots. We played elite defense. We disrupted their offense, Radford's offense. They couldn't run their offense and catch the ball cleanly or catch it where they wanted to or catch it with a free look. Every shot they got off was contested. Hand up, hand in their face. And they're already, I told you before, they take and make tough shots. But it's hard to sustain that. It's hard to sustain that. You got to get the easy looks. You got to get the easy looks. Even look at VCU. When you look at earlier previous games, they weren't getting the cleanest looks. You know what I mean? And it's hard to sustain knocking down contested shots like that, especially at this college level. It just is, right? So yeah, we contested everything. We forced turnovers, and then we took the turnovers and turned them into points. You know what I mean? So this was one of the best defensive efforts I've seen, not just from this team, but in the past few years. And don't get me wrong, we had some great defensive outings. I'm not saying this is the best one, but this is up there. This is definitely because Radford. I don't think Radford's a joke. I said that before. I think Radford's a really good team, and we held them. We held them to 6 points for 10 minutes. Their first bucket was made by Kenyon Giles, and that was, let me see here. Kenyon Giles, that was at 18:50. They put the score to 36-35, Radford. And then their next bucket came at the 10-10 minute mark. And that was Brian Antoine making a three-pointer. So that's basically 6 points in 10 minutes. That is outstanding defense. Outstanding defense. And VCU, I don't really look to them and think that they should lose any rebounding battles. I want to see. Let's see what the team rebounds were. Okay, we ended up losing by 1, right? And that's because in the first half they really kicked our tail. It was like 22. It was 20-13. So we closed it up. We closed the gap, and we only lost that battle by 1. And we needed to do that because that's when you take tough shots, you have some misses. And I thought that Archer for Radford, who is a 6'7" big motor guy, did very, very well as far as getting rebounds and second chance points for Radford. But however, we stopped that and we plugged the hole, or we stopped the faucet for King and Giles. He finished the game with 19 points. He had 16 in the first half. 16 in the first half, 3 in the second. And I want to give a shout out to Coach Odom for making the adjustment he did. Or was it an adjustment? Or did Zeb just really buy in? I tell you what, Zeb is 6'5", quick feet, long arms. Who does that remind you of? What kind of body type is that? 6'3" ish, long arms, quick feet. Breonte Weber. Now, no way, shape, or form am I saying that Zeb Jackson is Breontae Weber. Breontae Weber was a steals menace. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have the record for NCAA, but everybody in the world, they know what time it is. They know that was his record. If he doesn't get hurt, he's going to shatter that record. He's going to crush that record. It's not even going to make any sense how bad it is. And ain't no telling how long VCU plays. They won the championship that year, in spite of Breontae being hurt, and then they could have did some more damage in the tournament. So, but Zeb Jackson has that same type of frame, that same type of build, and for a guy that's 6 foot and compact, it's gonna be hard for you to really get buckets on Zeb Jackson. Zeb Jackson did so many good things on the defensive end, starting with him working the ball up the court, making it difficult. There was one time he was a one-man press. He was a one-man press. I'm talking about by the time they got it over half and got even a chance to start the offense, it was 14 seconds left on the clock, and nobody else was. It was everybody else went back half court or went back and set up their offense, but Zeb was just working the ball up, and it was something beautiful to see. But that ignited VCU's defense. That ignited it in the second half, and it was completely dominant. So Zeb Jackson and J Nell, but majority of Zeb Jackson had to deal with King and Giles in the second half, and we completely took him out of the game. DeQuan Smith averaging almost 13 points per game, and I think he may have got to 13, however, but majority of those were like free throws. I think he might have had 2 field goals in the first half, one in the second, then all the rest is free throws. And don't get me wrong, they got into the bonus. They got into the bonus with like 8 minutes left in the game. So that was really good. And when it comes to Antoine, McDonald's All American. Do you know who was checking him? Michael Bell. Michael, ring my bell. And pause. He is not your typical freshman as far as thinking the game, as far as his body size and body type. He's strong. He has a athletic build, long arms, big hands. And I'm not sure if you recognize this or realize this, but even in the Sanford game, Marshall was getting off in the first half. I think he might have had 16 or something and finished with 20. That's a lot of credit to Michael Bell. Michael Bell was checking him that second half, making it hard, running off screens, getting through him, contesting everything, making it hard, making it hard to get by him. Pause. So shout out to Michael Bell. And I'm telling you, I said this before, he does a lot of things that impact winning. He does a lot of things that impact winning. You may not see it in the box score. You know what I mean? But the game isn't won in the box score. You know what I'm saying? It's won on the court, things you do on the court. You know what I mean? You can put up. Giles had. You look at the box score. Giles had 20 points. He must have been killing. No, no, he wasn't. You know what I mean? So there's things that go on that don't get recorded on the box score that impact winning. And I think Michael Bell is a key contributor to VCU's success. And he's only going to get better and better and better and better. Shout out to Matt because he called it. Toby Lawal. Let's talk about Toby real quick. He had his first career double-double yesterday. 12 points, 10 rebounds. But the one thing I liked about Toby is he's not letting people off the hook. When you have that height and that athleticism, and you've been working on your three and everything, your skill set and all that, sometimes people can fall into the trap of playing what they worked on instead of what works for them. And Toby Lawal played with what works for him, and that's aggressiveness. He was aggressive on the boards, and he controlled the game for like a 3-minute stretch. Just offensive rebounds, fouls, swing to the corner where he could have took a three. He could have took a three, but he realized he had the smaller guard on him. Just big boyed him. Got to the cup, foul. Got another rebound, the next possession, foul. He was an animal and really controlled the game for 3 minutes. We'll go down, we'll get a stop. He'll get it. Toby got a steal, went down, got rewarded, layup. So all these different things that Toby did for a 3-minute stretch, he really controlled it. And it was straight off aggressiveness, being in the right place, and doing what works for you. So shout out to Toby. I look forward to him becoming one of the VCU greats. I really think he has potential to really make some money when it's all said and done. He just has to continue to play to his ability, use his God-given talent, and continue to work hard, which he already is. So keep that up. Don't stop. Um, and lastly, it was showtime at the Stew yesterday. So many highlights. I looked at Ram Nation's top 5 plays, and it was all dunks. Zeb Jackson's 2 dunks. Crazy athleticism. Toby with the Wall's 2 dunks. And Kwani made his way into the top 5, getting the alley-oop from J. Nell. So it was definitely showtime in the Stew. And there's so many other plays you could have highlighted, but you know what I mean? And that's such a great thing. So you're starting to see the offense open up. And I think the ability of VCU's three-point ability, and let me see something real quick. We only shot 30% from 3, right? Which ain't great, ain't terrible, but it ain't great. But just with that, the threat of us being able to knock down threes, it opens up the court. Coach Odom's offense is already generated for the court to be open. Now, what does that do? That allows Christian Furman and Toby Lawal to have all that space to crash the board. And if you don't put a body on Toby, he's going to soar over you. And if you put a body on Furman, he's tall enough and long enough to keep the ball alive, to tip it out, or grab the rebound himself. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for teams, you know what I'm saying, who can't match up physically with us to really have some success. So with all that said, VCU pulls out a dominant win. I did not see this coming. I really thought that Radford and VCU's game was going to be one of those games, just like it was last year, coming down to the stretch, and towards the end we pull off. But no, the VCU defense was just way too much for them. They completely shut off their faucet for scoring, which led to a 73-50 win. Beautiful performance. Kenyon Giles, 19 points, 2 assists, two points coming. 3 points coming in the second half. So great job defensively there. Brian Antoine, 10 points, 5 rebounds. Again, he has 10 points. He met his average, but all of his points were ill-effective. They weren't effective points. They didn't really impact points. You know what I mean? It didn't really impact winning. There's nothing with Radford. They only had 5 assists. And that's what happens when you have 3 gunners. When you got 3 guys who really want to put the ball up, and it kind of worked against them. They didn't have anybody trying to create for one another. They needed a true point guard over there to really get people involved. I think they have enough talent to be really good, but they're going to have to work on that moving forward. 5 assists in the game is terrible. So VCU, led by J. Nell, who had 12 points in the first half, 4 threes, 19 points, 2 assists, and he played, and both his assists were beautiful. One to Toby and one to Kwani, both lobs, both highlight plays. Zeb Jackson, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. I'm telling you, he's going to have his first 2 turnovers, and then he's going to turn up. So it's really, really great to see him flourish in this system. And, the defense really keyed in on Max Shoga. We really didn't mention him much. That's because his impact was him being on the court. The defense catered to him, assuming that he was the only one that could impact the game. And now they know that is a mistake. So there you have it. But my low key player of the game has to be Toby Lawal. First, like I said, first career double-double, career high in rebounds, career high in points, 12 points, 10 rebounds. And like I said, he controlled the game for a stretch in the second half, which was crucial for VCU to take over and win. So moving forward, VCU hosts Seattle this Saturday at 2 p.m. Seattle was 2-0, looking to continue their win streak. They haven't really played anybody with the caliber of VCU, so it's going to really kind of see a measuring stick for them to see where they are against a quality team like VCU. And VCU has to, continue to form and mold the culture in which they want to have and how they want to be identified moving forward. And I think we saw glimpses of it against Sanford, but we really got to see a really good look at it last night with the win over a quality team in Radford. So will the team from the second half show up from the beginning, or will it revert back to how they played in previous games? We'll see. But that's all I got for y'all. Remember, never quit, stay humble. Until next time, peace.